everyone, and welcome to this BAMP workshop. And for this video, we're going to be discussing professionalism. So my name is Jasmine, and I'm a BAMP mentor. I go by the pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm a third-year history major at UCI.
Hi everyone, my name is Vitsa. I'm a first-year bio-sci student. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a pre-med student as well and a BAP mentor.
Hello everyone, I am Emi Yamasaki. I am a second year. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a psychological science major and a Japanese studies minor, and I am also a BAMP mentor.
All right, so for our agenda for this workshop, we're going to be going over why you should be professional in college, everything from references to networking. Then we're going to go over etiquette, through your clothes, through sending emails, talking to others. We're also going to be talking about resumes, interviews, resources, and socials to help you on your way to build your career. On to our first thing that we're going to talk about. Why does professionalism matter in college, and what steps we can take towards your success? So professionalism matters because from now on, you are now a young adult, okay? Every step that you take, it's gonna be in respect towards your career and what you want to do in your life. Ever since now, you have the resources in college, you can start doing extracurriculars. There's a myriad of opportunities for you in terms of bettering yourself or just gaining some more experience. So one of the things that I didn't really know this before, but professionalism matters because you're making an impression to your professors, to the staff you meet, to your friends, to the people you network with, because they are the ones that are going to help you potentially get an internship in the future that can help you get your dream job. Or maybe they can even be your reference in a job application. And just a little secret, it's not even what you do sometimes, it's about who you know. And that's going to be a phrase that you're going to be like, what? Like, nah, like, no, it's not true. But it's true. So there's a fancy term to this. It's basically called networking. And networking is extremely important because you only have 4 years of your undergraduate career. And I know that seems like a long time, but it goes by really fast. And after that, when you try to get into your career and maybe you want some internships or you want to apply for a job to go up and, essentially build up your career. But a lot of them ask for that letter of reference, that like a recommendation. And most of the time you're going to want to ask like a professor or someone that knows you really well. And also in the future, some of your friends or peers that you interacted with during your undergrad years, it's going to seem a little weird, but sometimes they're going to be the ones being CEOs, being employers at a specific company. And sometimes they can even conduct your interview. And so that gives you a higher chance above other applicants. As sad as it seems and unfair as it seems, this is kind of the reality, right? So that's why networking is really important, because that person gets to know you and your skills and what you can bring to the table, and then they can vouch for you if you want to get a position in the future. But a common question, how do you network, right? Like, what do you do? Like, it seems scary just going up to a person and just being like, hey, just introducing yourself, right? But it's actually easier done than said. You just have to put yourself out there. A best tip I have is to go to office hours. And a really good friend of mine once told me, because I once asked, how can I get close to a professor or someone from the staff or something like that? And so for me, I usually went to office hours, just ask questions about the class, introduce myself, had kind of like a little elevator pitch, if that makes sense. Just tell them, like, for me, for example, I'm low income, so I would tell them I'm low income. I come from this community, a little bit about my experiences, background, and what I want to do in the future. And the conversation just starts from there. Essentially, just having a genuine conversation with your professors and just seeing them from time to time, it'll get easier. And then, apply for internships, do all that once you have that all in your pocket. And most importantly, go to the career fairs at school.
So I'm going to be discussing the art of emailing, and emailing is going to be a really important part of how you present yourself to people that you want to connect with. And so on the left side, I have this image here, and it's an email asking a professor if they could set up a time outside of class to meet and discuss some of the topics that they're learning. And so I wanted to go through the various points. So first, of course, there's the people who you're going to be sending the email to. And I just wanted to distinguish between the CC and BCC that you see under that at that top spot. So what CC means is that you'll send an email to one main recipient, and then whoever you CC that email to will also receive that email, but they know that they're not the main person who it's intended for. And then BCC is when you want to send an email to multiple people, but you don't want each of those recipients knowing each other's email. So this would be sometimes maybe in a club or a newsletter that you're sending out. You kind of want to respect people's privacy. And so that's when you would use the BCC. And then after you figure out if you need to use any of those features, then you have the subject line, and your professors or hiring managers, whoever you're trying to email, a lot of times they're going to be really busy. So you want to make sure that your subject line is something that they know exactly going into the email, what they're going to be reading. And so I put the title request to meet because that's what this email is about. Next, you have your greeting. So it's going to be something like dear, hello. It doesn't have to be dear per se, but it's something along those lines that isn't too casual. So don't say something like, hey, Professor so-and-so. And then also make sure when you're emailing someone with the title, so professor or doctor, you make sure those are correct. Next, you're going to have just a simple greeting. You seem more approachable. And then the body is really important because that's where you're going to be actually stating what you want from this email. And if you look at the body, what I've written here is me giving them the times that I have available. So you kind of skip that step of asking them what times are available for you. And then they have to get back to you, and then you get back to them. You just kind of immediately tell them when you're available, which makes things a lot easier. After that, you have your closing and your signature. So just again, something to say, oh, thank you for taking the time to reading this email, and then your greeting or your closing statement. I also wanted to go over the different types of emails that you can send. So the one that I did earlier was a office hour meeting. But there's also things like references. So as Vitsa was talking about earlier, when you want to ask your professor or hiring manager, supervisor, etc., to give you a reference or a letter of recommendation, what you're going to do is you're going to introduce yourself or remind them of who you are, because professors have a lot of students. So you want to make sure that they know which class you were in and who you were. And then you're going to include attachments such as resumes, maybe a writing sample if that's appropriate, or some sort of sample depending on what you're applying for. And then you can also email for ongoing projects. So this is going to be to either your peers or at your workplace or internship. So you're going to first give them an update of how things have been going on your end of the project, and then ask for contributions or tell them what you want from them. And then next you have your application emails, which are going to be the emails you send when you're applying to a certain internship, project, or job. And so like the reference, you're going to introduce yourself. You're going to say, oh, this is me. I go to this university, things like that. And then also include attachments like the resumes, CVs, portfolios, samples. And then finally, you have your inquiry. So these are going to be any questions you want to ask. So you want to provide context. So if you are saying, if you are doing a research project and you wanted some help, you could say, hi, this is my research project topic, and I was wondering about this. So they know exactly what you're asking about. So now I'm going to be talking about the different types of attire that you'll become most accustomed to in a professional environment. And so on your left side is going to be your business professional attire. And it does differ depending on whether you're a man or a woman. And so for women, what you're going to look at is a blazer, some sort of slacks, or sometimes you can wear a skirt that goes below, just above or to below the knee. And then you're going to have some shoes. You can wear heels, but if you want to have comfort, you can wear flats. And then for men, you're also going to have a blazer, you're going to have some nice slacks, and you're going to have some nice dress shoes. For business casual, this is when you're going into a setting where you still want to make a good appearance, but you kind of want to be more comfortable in your clothes. And so for the men, you can see on the left side of that right part of the image is going to be some sort of collared shirt. So this man has a polo, but you can wear a button-down shirt or a collared shirt. Those are typically the things you're going to want to look at. You can also have a belt if you want. This is usually recommended. And then also some nice shoes. They don't have to be as nice as business professional dress shoes, but something that does show some level of professionalism. And then for women, you're going to have some professional blouse. It can also be buttoned down or collared, but you can also have any blouse that's conservative, maybe a little bit more muted in the pattern or color or design. And then you can choose between skirts and long pants here as well.
So now I'm going to talk about a paper that's pretty important in the professional world, and that is a resume. So a resume is a paper that you typically submit when applying to a job, and it basically summarizes all of your qualifications and skills onto one paper. So employers usually only look at your resume for 6 seconds. So it's really important that you have a solid resume that can stand out from the rest. Resumes are used to decide whether an employer or organization wants to invite you to the next step of the application process, which is usually the interview. Since every job or position you apply for is different, your resume may look different from application to application. In fact, it should look different because you want to highlight the skills and accomplishments that best fit the job description. All right, so how do you start a resume? Well, I've personally found that online templates are the best way to help format your resume. Google Docs and Word have some preset templates you can explore too if you're hesitant about downloading one from a random website. Your resume should be 1 page in length, and your margin should be between 1/2 inch and 1 inch, and your font size should be between 10 and 12 points. Make sure you're using a professional looking font. I usually use Times New Roman because it's always the safest bet when writing papers or other documents. When you look at some online templates, there are some really aesthetic and colorful ones, but most employers and organizations prefer simple resumes they can easily scan. So it's best to keep the format simple and everything in black and white. You should organize your resume by relevance or reverse chronological order, which I will touch upon later. And when you submit your resume, make sure you're submitting it in the formatted stated by the company. Usually it's a Word document or PDF. If it's not specified, I usually submit mine as a PDF. So as the previous slide showed, there is a typical structure to the resume as well, and there are 4 main components: contact information, education, experience, and skills. And I think the best way to look over this would be to look over an example resume. So that is what I'm going to show you next. But feel free to pause the video if you would like to look at the descriptions underneath each one. All right, let's break down an example resume so you can see what I'm talking about. So remember that this is an example and all resumes are different. So on the top, you have your contact information. Your name should be bolded and bigger than everything else. Peter Anteater here used his professional email that just included the first initial of his first name and his last name. Overall, each section underneath the contact information has a very similar structure. It's all in black and white, Times New Roman font was used, and the name of each section is bolded. The specific categories under each section are underlined. Dates, if they are relevant, are put on the right, and since Peter is in college already, he put which degrees he will be earning. He also put his GPA since it was pretty good, as you can see in the red circle. Under experience, he specified this section as leadership experience. He might have another section for volunteer work or job experience. So underneath in the red circle is the name of the organization as well as where it is located. So even though Peter usually calls this club the AAA club, he needs to write out the whole title of the club. So Anteater Awareness Club. His role in the club is underneath that in italics. Underneath that is a description of what he did as president of the Anteater Awareness Club. These bullet points are phrased as sentences and they all start with action verbs. So as you can see in the red circle, we have organized. The verbs are in past tense because Peter no longer holds this position, but if the dates went from September to present, he would use present tense for the verbs. Personal pronouns like I and my should be avoided. Finally, it's good to quantify your accomplishments as well, or put them into numbers. The last thing I wanted to point out was under skills, which is the proficiency level of each skill specified. If you aren't fluent in the language, it's still okay to put words like intermediate or conversational to describe your proficiency in something. You want to be honest, right? You don't want to lie to your future employer right off the bat. So overall, I know this was a lot, but remember that it's always okay to ask for help and have people look over your resume with you. So after an employer or organization looks over your initial application, they might invite you to an interview. This is a way for your employers to get to know you better and for you to expand on everything you put in your resume, and maybe even talk about things you couldn't fit onto your resume. Interviews come in all shapes and forms. They can be done over the phone, in person, or virtually, and you might have an interview one-on-one with someone or in a group with other applicants. So there are ways to prepare for an interview and understand how the process works, and you can check that out with the link below.
So I wanted to go over interview etiquette. And so I divided it into these 5 categories: your dress, body language, attitude, handshake, and importantly, your phone. So first, starting with dress appropriate to the position. So a lot of people will tell you that it's better to be overdressed than underdressed, which to an extent is true, but you do want to be very mindful of the position that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a position at an office, you probably are going to want to go in with your full business professional attire. But if you're doing something like an interview for a library position, then you might want to go slightly more dressed up, but not so overdressed that it would be a little bit not off-putting, but maybe a little bit too strange to go into that particular environment. Next, for body language, you want to have correct posture, you want to make eye contact, you want to smile, and you want to focus. And so all of these are traits to demonstrate to your interviewer that you are able to conduct yourself in a manner that is professional. Next, you have your attitude. So you want to put off a very approachable aura. You want to be very friendly, but you also want to make sure that you're maintaining a professional atmosphere. So don't overshare about things. If you want to make conversation, say, oh, hi, it's been a busy week, but I've been doing fine. How about you? Instead of going over the entire week and what it's been like. And also make sure to express gratitude. For your handshake, you want to be the one to initiate it because that shows that you have the initiative and the confidence to go up to a person and introduce yourself. And make sure that when you're shaking their hand that you have a firm grip, because you can actually learn a lot about someone through how they shake someone's hand. And then finally, your phone, turn it off, because the last thing you want is for your phone to have an alarm that you forgot about go off, or have a call or a text, anything like that. Just avoid any uncomfortable situation, turn it off for those 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay, so that's all we have for you today. If we missed anything or you want to learn more, you can check out our website and other socials, which will also be linked in the description below. And you can always shoot us an email as well with the email on the screen. But other than that, thank you for listening and check out our other BAMP videos as well.